What's up, y'all? It's your girl, I see Mona, and I am finally back with a review of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 1. Now, before we jump into things, you already know what to do. Go ahead and scan that QR code to get connected to me, or click the link in my description to get directly to me. All right, y'all, so let's get into it. So first, I want to start off by saying the graphics this season is everything. Like the way they had like Portia in color, but the rest of Atlanta in black and white, and the old time movie frame. I was like, okay, they're really trying to get Housewives back up and running. So of course we start with Portia because she is basically the leader now. Now that we know Kenya is not on here no more. And basically, Portia's just talking about how she's been living life. Her daughter's been growing up and obviously touches base on the divorce. She said there was financial issues and basically called out that Simon was a fraud, which we know in up to date events that Simon has been kicked out of the USA and has been scamming since the 80s. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on that Portia did not know. And she also talks about too that how a lot of people have been giving her a lot of like, backlash and saying this is her karma, but she kind of takes it with a grain of salt and is like, bad karma it leads to my good karma. So basically, she don't care. The next person we get into is Shamia. Now, first off, Shamia's house is fire. That's not Nigerian husband money, baby. It is $9 million. She said it was the second largest sale in Atlanta. There's literally an elevator in her house, like multiple elevators. Like it is beautiful. Shamia honestly really does have a cool personality. Obviously, we know her mainly through Portia. They're like best friends or whatever. And she was just kind of just touching base and saying how, like, even though she got this big old house and is has all this money, that she's basically, bougie ghetto. She don't mind having a Wells drink with the girls and then going out and spitting it out to the side and then buying you the actual real good drink. She basically says that she's the female Jamie Foxx. She can act, sing, and dance. Now, I knew of her acting a little bit. I forgot that she was a professional dancer. I forgot what sports team, but I'll go ahead and drop a pic. But she basically disguised herself as that. And she talks about her two daughters. She mentions her one daughter, Shiloh, who has been having a lot of medical issues. So that was sad to see and to hear that her daughter had been in the NICU and just is kind of struggling with life. And it really does kind of go to show you that, money truly cannot buy everything, even with her elevators and all of that. Like people still do have things that they go through. So I think that she was being very vulnerable putting that out there because we would have never known that. And then she talks about how she's known Portia for a long time and how through Portia she met the other housewives who we know of, like Kenya, Cynthia, and the new housewives on this show. We are going to meet them through Shamia. So she is kind of the one that is bridging this whole season together. And then she goes into detail about how she met her husband of 10 years. It is a long, long story, but long story short, her advice is to shit in that man's house, mark your territory. The next person that we get into is Drew. So Drew starts off basically talking about her divorce with Ralph, which honestly, I'm glad she's getting divorced from him. I never liked Ralph. He was so rude and like ill. So they've been going through this divorce for a year because they cannot agree on anything. And he currently lives in the basement, court orders, has his own separate interests and everything. She can't even go down to the basement unless he, I guess, allows her to or the judge allows her to. They literally contact each other through an app, and through this app the judge is like the mediator, so the judge can see everything that's being said between the two. I'm like, dang, it's really like that. Like, I'm just gonna blame it on Ralph. Ralph is so petty. So yeah, so in this scene, Kenya comes to the door with her daughter. What's her name? Brooklyn. And basically their kids are about to have a play date and they're catching up. Drew is telling Kenya how she has been grinding this past year. She had 5 movies, none of which I've heard of, but congrats to her. And she's been in her music bag. The only crazy part is Dennis has been helping her. I don't know if he's like the producer or what, but he has been hands on with her music career. Apparently, she talked to Portia about it, got Portia's blessing. Clearly, Portia don't care because obviously she going through her own stuff with her own man. But Kenya's over there trying to start some drama. Like, how do you think Portia feels? How do you think blah 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 blah? And I'm not gonna lie, it was throwing me off a little bit because Drew, like she said, like obviously Dennis told her that he got Portia's blessing, but the way she was talking about him, and she's like, "Oh, he's just a stand-up man," and the way he cares for his daughter, it was kind of giving like, are you about to steal her ex? I mean, we know on the show this may be a theme of stealing someone's man and leaving what they hint say, but we'll see. So we get to meet the newest housewife. Her name is Kelly. And Kelly is having a tea party for her oldest daughter, Chloe. Her daughter's turning 17. And for that party, she gives her 17 bags, designer bags, mind you. These are the rich housewives. So what we know about Kelly is that she has four daughters, the 17-year-old, an 11-year-old, and she has a set of twins. She is also currently going through a divorce right now as well. She was married to her husband for 11 years. The divorce that she's going through, it's been 2 years of getting this divorce handled. And she basically insinuates that her husband may have been on the abusive side. She says that police were called out multiple times during this whole divorce, that he's threatened her. Currently, right now, he can't even see the kids. So it seems like old dude was wilding on her. Kelly, she's originally from Baltimore and she owns Nana's Chicken and Waffles. That's like her bread and butter. And she has a 24 karat gold maple syrup that was mentioned or listed in Forbes. And she has her own cookbook. So she is truly a boss woman. So in the next scene, we have Portia, and she was going to her lawyer's office. And this is actually the same lawyer who handled her divorce case with Cordell from back in the day, who we know is one of the kids. And basically, she was telling him how her main thing of why filing for divorce was to protect her assets, the main asset being that beautiful house. And basically, Simon's being hella petty and messy. She explains how he is trying to stop her from filming. He sent her a cease and desist. He does not want her to film any scenes in that house. And he had recently, in that scene, or up to date, cut off communication with her. And Portia's in her feelings. She feels very portrayed about the communication that she has with Simon. In particular, in general, she prided herself on the fact that they were so open with each other and they had really great communication. But now that she knows that he is a whole fraud and scammer and a scheme that Todd set up, she feels backstabbed. And honestly, I love Portia down, but I have to be honest, it is hard to feel bad because we gotta be up front. Like, you stole that lady's man. Like, come on. So in the next scene, we have Shamia and we have Kelly and a new housewife. Her name is Brittany. Brittany is an insurance agent. And from the conversation, it also seems like she was a former model. As they're sitting down and they're taking shots or whatever and catching up, Shamia invites them to her birthday party. And they ask who's going to be there. And she obviously says Portia's going to be there. We know her and Portia are best friends. And this is when the shade starts to be thrown. So Kelly basically comes for Portia and she calls her out and she was like, why did she steal that lady, man? And I'm not gonna lie, Shamia is a good friend because she stood up for her. She literally told her, are you just hearing that from the blogs? Like, basically you're just, taking what you heard from these messy blogs and running with it. And she told her straight up, like, you should meet Portia in person, get to know her on your own before you go out and believe these blogs. Now, I do think it's messy because Shamia, when they were asking who else she invited, obviously she named off people like Kenya, Cynthia, whoop de whoop. And then she gonna say she invited Drew and she invited Ralph, even though she knows they're going through divorce, but she don't know all the details. Like, why would you? Okay, that was kind of weird to me. Brittany then she starts bringing up Dennis and Drew because there's rumors that they're apparently dating. Like, as we know, Dennis is helping Drew with her music. However, Brittany was saying that she heard rumors of them holding hands in the club, and that's why I'm like, okay, that's completely different from someone helping produce your music to holding hands in the club. Y'all are definitely dating. And then she brings up how she dated Dennis back in the day, or they went on one date and he gave her this diamond necklace. And I'm like, okay, Dennis, like, you definitely got a type. So in the next scene, we have Portia and Shamia. They're at the strip club. And Shamia is basically trying to cheer Portia up because obviously she's going through this divorce. So they're sitting there talking, titties in the face, all that, whatever. And she tells Portia how Simon texted her, congratulating her on her peach. And Shamia responded back, like, oh, thanks, bro. And I do like how Portia called her out, like, don't be calling him bro. Like, we ain't cool. We ain't no kin. Like, like, they going through this whole divorce. And then that's when Shamia decides to tell Portia what Kelly said about the whole "you stole that lady's man." And Portia's response back, blah. Portia's response back is, "Oh, that's her energy." And then she kind of downs her, like, "We over here trying to support the chicken shack." I'm like, "Ooh, okay." And then that's when Shamia asks about Drew and then tells her about the nightclub. So Portia knew about one time them being out the nightclub. I guess that's when she was like, "Oh, the producer, the music." She didn't know there was another time. So once she found that out, she was like, "Oh, okay." You could tell that Portia was honestly upset and kind of salty about it. And she was saying in her confessional that, like, that's messed up because she made Drew an influencer for her go naked hair. And now she over here dating her baby daddy. But at the same time, it's like, Portia, girl, like, come on. Let's be real. Let's be all the way real. Now, the day has come and it's Shamia's 42nd birthday party. And Kelly is the first one to come. She comes extremely early. And I like how Shamia was upfront with her. She tells her that she told Portia what she said. And she also told her that she felt a little bit uncomfortable how she was asking all those questions. And she's told her straight up, like, like, Portia's going to be here. You want to talk to her, talk to her. And Kelly took it well. She was like, "I didn't want you to feel uncomfortable." And she was like, "I'm already knowing, that you told Portia that's your friend." So it was handled very well, very adult like. The next person who comes, we got Cynthia. She comes. And then the new housewife, Angela. She is married to Charles Oakley, who is a former basketball player from the 80s, I believe 1985 to 2004. Then we got Brittany and her husband roll up. We got Drew, we got Kenya, and then we have Portia, who is nowhere to be found and still getting her makeup and lace done. So disrespectful. Now, one thing I want to point out is, so as the girls are getting to mingle with each other, Kenya threw hella shade towards Brittany and her second ring. So they're talking about the girls there who are divorced, who are married. And Kenya literally asked her, like, "Oh, like, where's your wedding band? Like, are you married?" Brittany tells her, like, "Oh, yeah, this is my second ring." And then Kenya's like, "Oh, is it to your second husband?" And it's like, skirt. Like, first off, Kenya, you have a lot of nerve. Like, not only are you not married, but you're going through a divorce and you have been going through this divorce for what, 3, 4 years now? Like, shut up. At this point in time, Portia is still not the party. At this point, it's like 7 p.m. And one of these ladies comes up to Shamia and was like, "Hey, there's a surprise for you outside." Girl, tell me why her husband surprises her with a 430,000 Rolls Royce. Like, baby is clean. And as she's getting surprised and about to get in the car, guess who walks up? Portia. Portia walks up right as she's getting in the car, and it was kind of a little distasteful because it's like, honestly, you could have walked around and been in the audience, and like they were, I think Kelly said this in her confessionals, fake, like you was there the whole time. But for you to walk up and dang there try to slide in the car with her, like, no, sit down. And you could tell that Shamia was like looking at her sideways, and she did say in her confessional too, like, she wasn't feeling it. But they had their own private moment and talk. They had went upstairs, and Portia did genuinely apologize for being late. And she was like in the confessional saying how, Shamia knows her heart. She wouldn't do anything intentional. And she blamed it on the traffic, although we saw a clip from what 6:30 of her getting her makeup done. Like, all right, girl. So at this point in time, all the girls are sitting down to talk. And keep in mind, right before this, Cynthia fills in Kenya on the tea of basically Kelly being messy and asking the question that we've all been wanting to know: why'd you take that lady's man? But everybody's sitting down on the couch, they're chatting it up, everybody except for Portia. And Kelly is telling Kenya about, her comment and about, how she feels like she took that lady's man. Right as they're winding down the conversation, Portia walks right on over. And y'all, I kid you not, and this is why I actually like Kelly, because she stand on business. She asked Portia straight up, "So why'd you take that lady's man?" Baby, Portia was so like gagged and just like upset. She literally was on some type of like, she responded being like, "And your name is who? Like, I don't, basically I don't even know you and you all up in my business." Which is true, but I mean, why did you take that lady's man, Portia? And it got to the point where Portia was like, "No, like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not talking to her. Like, I don't know you and you all up in the tea." So then someone suggests that, hey, they go upstairs to a different room where it's less crowded and public and they can really talk and hear each other. So the girls move it all into this room. And Shamia, she brings up to Drew not being invited to her B-Day party. And Drew was like, "Oh, nobody was invited." And then here goes Portia, except for me. And then Drew was like, "Yeah, like my assistant was the one who sent out the text to people. And I guess she invited Dennis because Dennis was the one who invited Portia." And you could tell that, Portia's starting to be a little salty. And she was like, "Yeah, Dennis invited me." And then that's when Shamia asked, Drew, are you dating Dennis? And that's the end of the episode. So if y'all like this review, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And I will see y'all next week for a review of episode 2. Thank you for watching.